At Maverick Public Relations, growing your influence is their specialty. NPR works with remarkable companies in the cannabis industry to deliver exceptional results. Experience big agency expertise and outstanding client service delivered by seasoned and knowledgeable experts. Connect with Maverick PR today and move your company to the next level. Visit them today at www.themaverickpr.com.
From a studio high above the clouds of the Okanagan Valley, this is the Cannabis Potcast. Exploring the world of Canadian cannabis culture, one toke at a time. And now, with the very first episode, here's your host, Gary Johnston.
I can't tell you how happy I am to welcome you to the very first episode of the Cannabis Potcast. I'm so excited to be here. I have been a cannabis advocate since, well, longer than you probably want to know about. That's one of the reasons I'm here, and I'll tell you more about that as we proceed. Today, on the very first episode, you get double the fun because you get double the Ian. Now, I'm going to introduce you to my son, Ian, who has a long history with podcasts, actually, and, yeah, I guess he has a fairly long history with cannabis. Certainly he does with me. And in addition to that, you're also going to meet an historic Ian. Ian Power from St. John's, Newfoundland, the very first person to purchase recreational cannabis in our country, will be here later as well. Some great conversation is coming up right here on the Cannabis Potcast. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I feel that I have a purpose. And that purpose is that I have been involved in cannabis since well before 1972, when those who have studied any history will know that the Ledane Commission came to the conclusion that cannabis, or marijuana as it was called then, should be legalized in our country. I've been waiting as long as up until October 17th of this year for that to happen. In addition to that, I think that there's a perspective that I bring, as well as my guests will bring, to the Canadian cannabis culture. What's happening here after legalization? It has changed so many things, and yet so many things remain the same, and in fact, some things have actually kind of gone backwards. And we'll be talking a little bit about that with our guests as the episodes progress as well. So, let's say we get started with our very first guest on our very first episode.
From the cannabis-infused studio in the clouds, this is the Cannabis Potcast.
I'm especially pleased today that I have a special guest with me. And this gentleman has been with me for a number of years now because he's my son. And I'm very pleased to have him join me for this first segment on our podcast. Please welcome my son, Ian.
Hello, pod people. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Pod people, I like that reference. So I'm in the Okanagan area of British Columbia, which of course is one of the provinces where cannabis is legal. One of the provinces that has only one cannabis store, which is bizarre in and of itself. But you were saying, Ian, there's still a couple of dispensaries that are open down in Vancouver?
Yeah, there's a lot of them shut down. Most of the ones near me shut down, but there's a lot still open. The one sort of close to me, the guy there, he's a really nice guy, and he just says that he has a permit from the city to run the place, and the city says they're not going to shut them down. They're not going to spend the resources to shut them down. So he's just kind of hoping for the best, I guess. But yeah, so there's several still open around here.
Yeah. So access is, and we were chatting the other day, and that's the one thing we both commented on, the bizarre factor of legalization in Canada is now the access after legalization day is harder than it ever has been.
Yeah, it's harder. It's true. It's slightly harder to get here, but only by several blocks.
Yeah, except for you down in Vancouver, that's true. For those of us in the interior, the only access one has now is through online, through BC cannabis stores. And that's the shipping issue that you have to deal with. And of course, now there's a strike with the post office. So a lot of people are having their shipments delayed.
Yeah. I mean, the strike is very, very extremely well timed. I'm sure they had this planned. I mean, it's
no doubt about it.
What better time to have a strike?
Yeah. It gives them a pretty strong bargaining position to work from.
But yeah, there's still several shops. I went into one today, and there was actually 2 police cars parked outside and a big paddy wagon parked outside, and several cops standing around milling about. And I thought about it. I second guessed going in, but I watched other people going in, and I went in and bought a small bit of pot in front of all these cops, and it was fine.
And it's weird because I actually, in the summertime, we were over in Nelson prior to legalization, and they, of course, had a dispensary. And I went in, and there was a Nelson City police officer standing right outside the door of that place. And I had similar occurrences, but of course, it's a little easier now, at least with legalization. Nothing should be happening to you.
Right. Yeah.
Ian used to host a podcast some years ago that was called Two Guys Being Animals. I really enjoyed listening to it. He had fun putting it together. And one of the things I liked about it was your hot seat questions that you used to have, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, well, I'm preparing this podcast. I need to get some of those types of hot seat questions that I can ask each of my guests to have comparisons of. So if you don't mind, I've got 4 of them right now. Why don't I throw them at you and see what your responses are?
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
Your favorite strain?
I really like one called Super Lemon Haze. It's sativa. It's like getting stuff done, clean the house.
Yeah, I agree. I like
another
that
one I
too.
really like is Girl Scout cookies. Those are my 2.
Those are your 2 faves? Yeah, those are both nice. I've tried both of those too. In joints or vape it?
Well, yeah, I guess the vape pen is very handy. Like you can take it to a concert or something. It's very discreet. But yeah, a lot of my friends roll joints. Yeah. Joints are around.
Yeah, they're still around. It's true. Your favorite munchie?
Let's go with a pretzel. I'll take a pretzel, please.
A pretzel for one. And what has been your favorite experience? There's probably many of them, but your favorite experience while high?
Oh, geez. That's a tricky one.
Well, they can't all be easy.
Geez, maybe.
Well, and don't make it more complex than it is. Really, what I'm saying in that is that, do you like to listen to music? Do you like to watch movies? Do you like to read? What kind of thing do you like doing when you're high?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. There's definitely some strains that are good for getting stuff done or working on things. I also like the sort of situation where when we're playing in the jam space, like playing in a band. Halfway through, we'll go out and smoke a joint, and then you come back in and you do like kind of a different style of jam because of the influence. So that sort of thing, I like that sort of thing the most.
Oh, very cool. Excellent. Well, I might have to tweak the questions as we work along, because I want them to be. Yeah. The thing I liked about it when you guys did it in your show is the responses were fast. Give me the answer quick, right, kind of thing. And if the question's not worded correctly, that allows you for that quick response. So I may have to tweak some of those. I think.
I mean, yeah, you could ask. There's certain things like some people when a joint starts to burn unevenly, like some people call that a canoe. Other people call it a run. I guess there's like these different terminologies that people have grown up with.
I'm not sure that I've ever actually called that a name. I call it. Okay. I guess the name I use is I got to wet my finger and stop the burn from running.
Right. Okay.
But I never really thought of naming that. So maybe that's
canoeing.
Canoeing. Okay.
On the West Coast, it's canoeing.
It's canoeing. Interesting. Language is so interesting as it changes across the country. I'll have to keep my ear on for that one. Well, I'm going to let you get on with your day while I get on with mine and go talk to some other people and get everything I need done for episode 1 here. So thank you so much for helping me put it together, son.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the podcast, or should I say the potcast?
The potcast. It's funny. That's what your mom said the other day when we were talking about it too.
It probably won't be the last time that someone makes that joke on the show.
It probably won't be, and I may have to put that in the official documentation. That this is a podcast for Canadian cannabis culture. So thank you very much, Ian. You have yourself a great day, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dad. You too. Bye.
I just love the way the universe works sometimes. The interview that you just listened to with my son Ian and myself was actually recorded out of sequence with the other pieces of this episode. But because we have a good rapport and I liked a lot of the bits, I kept it in. When we recorded that, the name of the show was Canucks on Cannabis. I thought, oh, that's going to probably cause me some problems with the hockey team down on the coast. So I decided to change it when Ian came up with the reference to the podcast. And luckily for me, when I searched for my URL, cannabispodcast.com was available. So the universe basically said, that should be the name of your show.
Are you ready for liftoff? Don't miss Canada's #1 cannabis conference and trade show, Lift & Co Expo, coming this May 12 to 15 to Metro Toronto Convention Centre. Level up your industry intel at the Lift Cannabis Business Conference. Connect with movers and shakers from across the cannabis industry and preview new products and services from 250-plus exhibitors. Plus, everyone loves Lift & Co Expo's prizes, live music, and more. Visit liftexpo.ca for tickets. That's liftexpo.ca.
Well, I mentioned at the start of this first episode that this was going to be a double Ian episode. My son Ian, you've already heard from, and now I'm ready to introduce the second Ian of our podcast episode. This gentleman has been a medicinal cannabis advocate for over 30 years now. He has helped to further the normalization of cannabis both medicinally and recreationally within Canada. His dedication to information research and knowledge building has been paramount to achieving this status among his peers already working in the fields of research and advocacy, both in Canada and international. Now, his dedication to researching and understanding the latest research in the medical cannabis fields of study has helped him to better advocate and help people understand their options in obtaining their medicinal status and which treatments may be best suited for their needs. And ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased to introduce you to Ian Power. Ian, welcome.
Hi everybody.
And for those who don't know, one of the reasons why I wanted Ian on the broadcast was not only the fact that he has a pretty long history with dealing with cannabis, but also he made history. On October 17th, the day that cannabis was legalized in Canada, you made history, right, Ian? Tell us about that.
I did. I knew that legalization was upon us. I had heard of the date a month beforehand, so I'd been saying for all my life to all my friends, when it goes legal, I will be first in line to buy that first gram. And so I did. I lined up, and at midnight, I went down at 7:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And there was nobody in line, so I quickly ran to Tim Hortons, grabbed myself a large double, and came back and found a close parking spot, lined up, and just it was wild. I figured there would be like hundreds of people there early in the night, but I guess with the weather that we were having that night, it was 9 degrees and 70 kilometer per hour gusts of wind, so it brought it down to about -3, and there was nobody out there, no brave Newfoundlanders.
Only the truly dedicated were there.
Only the truly dedicated, and I guess I would be the only truly dedicated one here.
It sounds like you were. So there you were, first in line. The store opened, and you went in and you made your first purchase.
And made the purchase with Nikki Rhodes. She was a young lady that Tweed had picked to also make a purchase, it was just really surreal to count down and literally be in the pinnacle history moment for cannabis in Canada.
And you truly were. And to give it some context, of course, so there you were in Newfoundland, and here I am out in British Columbia, and we only have one cannabis store.
One, and there's 20 in Newfoundland.
I know, it's insane.
And apparently there was so much sold in Newfoundland that we could have covered all of our debt to Canada in 1 week. Right?
Why is that not a surprise as well? So you have 20 stores now.
20 stores.
Wow.
Right?
And again, in our province, which is the home of BC Bud, right?
Right. Beautiful Cannabis Canada, as I've always called it.
We have one government store, that's in Kamloops, which is about 2.5 hours away from me. And then we have one private store, which is over in the East Kootenays in Kimberley, and that's probably about 5 hours away from me.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. So I was not only impressed that you were the first one there to make the first legal purchase of cannabis in our country, but also the fact that you had a store to make that purchase in was pretty impressive to me.
Yeah. And it's the closest one as far east as you can go. And so our countdown, the sale there happened exactly at midnight.
Yeah, right at that time.
Not even a second over. So I am the first man to buy a gram, and she's the first woman. She bought an eighth, a half quarter,
Oh, very
and
cool. So we have
and
two
so
marks in the history books.
yeah, and I bought Donegal, the strain Donegal, because
Hmm.
I'm a member of the Donegal Cannabis Society. I
Okay.
have been for quite some time, and the family name comes from Donegal. And I actually, what I didn't realize that night was that I have a cousin who actually lives in Donegal Island. So
Oh, very cool connection.
yeah. So
Oh, that is very
they
cool.
the Donegal Cannabis Society. I was just featured in the local newspaper there about a week ago,
Nice.
and they've reached out to me and they're sending me a care package, buttons, pins, and a hat, and a T-shirt. Got to represent wherever I go, and uh,
Absolutely.
it was quite an honor. That they reached out to me and said we're going to send you this care package, and
Yeah, very nice.
yeah, every single friend I have to date is because of cannabis,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I would tend to agree with that. It's kind of the same for me as well. The one thing that I found interesting about your purchase, Ian, is I understand you didn't smoke it.
No, I still have it. It's
Yeah.
in an undisclosed location in a safe
Oh,
because
nice.
it's
For its
it's
historic
I
value.
for it's probably its monetary value because I had someone offer me over $100,000 for it the next day. I
You're
turned it
kidding.
down. I'm not joking. I didn't know if
Wow.
it could have been a police officer. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I just
guess. Eh?
said I said no. That's going to be a part of history and staying with me forever. And the guy was like, "Did you really just turn down 150,000 US?" And I said, "Yes, I did."
Now that's a dedicated cannabis advocate.
Right? I could use the money, but
Yeah, couldn't we all,
it's
right?
right. 150,000, but then it would be trafficking and 14
Absolutely.
years
Yeah, yeah.
and $1 million fine. So
And
I had
and
to respectfully decline.
yeah, and because as we've realized, this move to legalization is, I'm finding it really a dual-edged sword.
It
You
is.
you made one comment I remember seeing on the news, and the comment that you made was, "The stigma ends tonight."
It does.
And I thought that was the best quote that I had heard about that first legal cannabis sale. But then I've been talking with other friends of mine. I have another friend who, in fact, is going to be on another episode. He started a company called OkanaganZ.com, which he
Yeah.
calls a marijuana media company. So he's just
Oh,
doing marijuana and cannabis stories. And that's what they're focused on. And we were chatting the other day, and the stigma, unfortunately, has not left as much as many of us thought it would. I think it has
well,
left between us, like those of us who are into the cannabis field,
yeah.
but those who aren't, there's still that stigma. Have you found that same thing?
Actually, I find Newfoundland to be a lot more progressive about it.
Okay, good.
Uh, we the RNT, well, Newfoundland Constabulary, they sent out notices to the quote unquote illegal shops to shut down. So like
Yeah,
they could have just went in and raided them and been, bully about it,
sure.
but they gave people notice, and some shops did close down, others didn't, and they ended up getting raided. But I honestly believe that all the smaller dispensaries should have been included in the whole legalization
Yeah, I agree.
process.
Yeah,
You employ people, the money stays local. It's not going, overseas or to American companies.
absolutely.
Um, and it would bring the price down, especially for patients, because it hasn't gotten any cheaper for patients since legalization.
No,
Right?
it certainly hasn't. And in this part of the country, access has been incredibly hard for patients since
Well,
legalization.
that's
That's
yeah.
not happening in
So
Newfoundland. They can still access it fairly easily.
no, it's about the same. It's
It
for
is, eh?
medical patients. It's still hard. It's even myself. I did became kind of famous for it, but it hasn't made it any easier for me to access cannabis. A lot of people do talk about staying with their, free market dealers,
Yeah,
and you got to do what you got to do, right?
you,
Like I can't
you
say
do.
it's the best thing, but I'm not saying it's the worst thing. Like I support independent dispensaries. I support
Hmm.
people who grow at home and share with other patients.
Yeah,
That's the biggest bonus out of this is that you can share and not get in trouble.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I can go and give someone who's over who's legal age, right in front of a police officer, I could hand them a half bag of cannabis, and it's not illegal. So that's one little good thing. But
That
I
is.
think the whole advertising restriction is a bunch of, heard my word for poppycock, as my grandfather would say.
Yeah.
Uh, just where alcohol is being targeted towards everyone and is, thrown in everybody's faces. Why can't cannabis be advertised on TV and in newsprint? And
That's the thing I find most bizarre about the advertising rules. So you look at a beer commercial, as you just said, and all you see is people. People,
Yeah.
people. And, and according to the regulations for advertising, to advertise cannabis, there can be no people in the image.
Right?
Like what's up with that?
Well, then maybe companies should just advertise strictly straight cannabis and with no people, and just a big pot leaf on the screen. And
Yeah, it's just bizarre. So there's many areas of this legalization that have, I think, created even more confusion. What's your assessment of where we are so far? In we've been a little over a month now. How do you think it's
over a
gone?
month. I think they underestimated the demand.
Yeah,
Mostly what I'm seeing is senior citizens in the Tweed store downtown, at Dominion, grocery store, Loblaws, right? You can buy cannabis at the grocery store, which is
really?
mind blowing. Yes, you can
Oh,
go
wow.
buy your groceries, then you can go over to the liquor store, and then you can go into the cannabis store.
I'm definitely
All
in the
in one
wrong
place.
province.
All right, Newfoundland's very progressive. Like I said, we're very progressive on a lot
Yeah,
of
I'll
things.
say. Well, that is cool.
And I'd like to give a shout out to the only independent store here, Thomas Clark, THC Distributing. I'd like to say, he's doing a great job, and as the
Absolutely.
independent run company, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a dream of his for 25, 30 years. I'm glad to see that he's doing great and his business is going really well. And, more
Absolutely.
power to him for being an independent and not being, a big corporation.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. And in fact, on that regard, I was aware of Thomas H. Clark. I love the fact that his
Yeah.
name is not actually Herb, but because everybody calls him that, he gets the THC in his name. That's
Yes, he
pretty
gets
cool.
the THC.
And the
yeah.
thing I liked about his story is that the first pot that he sold was to his dad, which I thought was pretty
Yeah.
cool. So where do you see ultimately legalization going in Canada, Ian?
I would hope to see that it would go for advertising or be allowed, because there's a huge amount of careers that are waiting to start because of advertising. I would like to see the medical program, because we're talking about phasing it out, but to become more robust and to be subsidized by the taxes from
Mm-hmm.
recreational cannabis. The price for medicinal should be $2 a gram and no more, in my opinion.
Boy, wouldn't that be
People are
nice?
sick.
Yeah,
$2 a gram
exactly.
would be nice. People are
Mhm.
sick. Shouldn't be profiteering off the sick.
How
A lot
true.
of other aspects happen that's profiteering off the sick.
Yeah.
I think independent growers should be included going forward. They should look at that, because with demand so high and the supply low, those people can pick up the slack.
Yeah.
Give the bigger producers a chance to grow more product. These people are knowledgeable. They've been at it. Some of them are at it 50 years, 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the big companies, they all be tested independently by an independent company.
Yeah.
Oversight from the government, but not too much government control.
Yeah, because that just gets in the way.
That gets in the way a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it has a history of that, doesn't it?
And I got to say, my two biggest inspirations in all of this are Mark and Jody Emery.
How
They've
true.
risked and lost everything for this. They've always
So
been my
true.
inspiration.
Yeah, mine too.
Um,
Yeah, mine too. I follow both of them on Twitter, and they are continuing to be out front,
They are,
challenging
and
the
good.
legalization.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm very glad they are. After their charges and everything, they didn't run away like a lot of people would. They doubled their efforts.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do as an activist. If you get in trouble with the law, so be it. Double your efforts afterwards, because after all, things do change.
They certainly do, and I was proud of Mark that he went into Quebec. Was it last week, I guess? Because Quebec has made this piece where you can't have anything that has the words cannabis on it in any of their stores, like the bongs and stuff.
Right?
And I thought that was really bold of Mark to go and show his support for the industry by doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I watched the video and I was glad that he was out doing it right in front of the Quebec legal store.
Exactly.
You know, here's a huge market. Lots
Yeah.
of Canadians can be employed, right?
And one of the best quotes I saw from Mark, I think, over the last few weeks was when they were talking about the problem with the amount of availability and the legal and the retail aspects of it. And his quote was, let's see, our cannabis culture store probably sold more marijuana than any other store in the world, and nobody came to ask us a single question.
Right?
Doesn't that say it all?
Right? No one's had any wonder well, I would know that they would guarantee it would be safe products,
Yeah,
nice and
exactly.
clean,
Yeah.
no use of illegal pesticides.
Yeah, all that stuff that we obviously have some concerns about, but yeah.
Or, I have a friend who's Sage Amaldi from America, and she's a big activist, and she's spreading around awareness about neem, which is a pesticide that some growers will use after the plant goes to flower, which you're not supposed to do.
Oh, okay.
And she has linked neem with hypermestosis syndrome, where people smoke cannabis and then they get, the stomach cramps and everything like that. So she's been bringing about awareness for that.
Wow.
I'm super proud of her for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not everybody knows every little detail. She's one of the foremost activists in America that I know of. Right.
Oh, very cool.
I also have partnered up a bit with Magical Butter, Garen Angel and Chris Whitener. They actually sent me a plaque with my Newsweek article on it.
Nice.
And I've been an active member of their forums for about 2 years. So they teach you how to infuse all your food and make everything you eat medicated. So they're a great company to follow and to look out for, movers and shakers. Garen Angel is challenging the norms around the world and helping legalization further. And
very cool.
There's a lot of people. I could probably list off 1,000 people off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's certainly growing. It is. It's an exciting
like
time. Yeah, very, very good.
Like
growing like a weed. Now, who would have thought of that?
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast was not only to have a conversation with people like you and people like me that have been involved with cannabis for a while, but also to touch on those people that are just curious about it, that are coming into legalization and thinking, and there are a number of people like this that I am associated with. In fact, I've had probably a half a dozen of them approach me ever since I started talking about this podcast and where we're going to go with it, to ask about when you're just coming in, what's the best approach? So I would ask you, Ian, what's your best advice for somebody just coming in and wanting to try cannabis? What would you suggest approach they take?
I would take it easy. Slow and low is always the best method. Like, get some indica, get some sativa.
Yeah.
Take your indica and try that. Take a couple of puffs or a couple of hits off a vaporizer or, and see how it works out for you. Don't go, don't jump in head first, because you might have a bad experience and it might be too strong for you and steer you away from something that's literally made for us.
Yes.
Just take it slow. A lot of I'm an indica person. Sativas just do too much for me. I'm 90% of the time it's indica.
Yeah.
As far as edibles, take it very slow.
Yeah, very slow.
Because it will take a lot longer for the effect to come on, because it has to metabolize in your body and go through your liver and your kidneys and everything before it hits your brain. And so sometimes people can get frightened by edibles. If I only need a small bit of an edible and it just knocks me out completely.
It does, eh?
I don't advocate driving under the influence. I don't do it myself.
None of us should.
Nobody should ever drive impaired under anything. That includes like prescription medication too.
Yeah,
right?
of course it does. Yeah.
Pot, right? Like, and it's not the same as alcohol. You don't get the same impairment. I don't know why they made the law to compare it to alcohol.
Well, because they don't understand. They don't understand that the impairment is different.
They don't understand it. Yeah, completely different. Yeah.
completely different. I so heartedly agree with that statement. Okay, well, that's good advice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I wish more of us had been involved in the process
Yeah,
in government. Like, not to say anything against Bill Blair, but what does he really know about cannabis except for arresting people?
exactly. Other than he's arrested a
Right?
bunch of people. Yeah,
And
exactly.
now he's profiting off those same people.
Yeah, and I guess
Right?
that's the with the law, and what we've already talked about, not driving under the influence. But the part that surprises me about the new legislation is how many people have been busted simply for having it in their car, close
Yeah.
to the driver. Like
Right?
nobody's smoking it, but somebody has it, and they're getting busted for it. Like that's just
That's not
so
right.
weird. No, that isn't
That's
right. I
not right.
agree.
If they do that swab test that apparently doesn't work all the time in cold climates.
Yeah, the Draeger 5000. That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Not even proven, and
not
they're
even
using it.
proven. No, totally.
And
Eh,
if you don't have any cannabis in your system, what's the harm with having it on the seat, in the glove box, or on the floor of the back seat?
Exactly. I mean, I
It's no
guess.
different than having a dozen beer on the back seat of the car not opened.
Yeah,
As long as
exactly.
that
Not
seal
opened. Yeah,
not opened.
precisely. Yeah.
If that seal isn't broken, then it shouldn't be illegal.
No, it shouldn't be. I agree wholeheartedly. So that's one of the things I would like to see change as this
I'd like to see that change.
carries on.
Yeah. They won't bother pulling me over because I'll give them an hour lecture on cannabis. But again, like I don't smoke, and I write down the time when I do imbibe.
Okay. So
they
you
do
have
come here, like,
accurate information you can present to them.
Well, 10:17 in the morning, and then I wait 3 hours.
Okay.
Right, so 10:17 because that was the date that's it was legal, right? So,
Of course.
10:17 is the new 4:20. So America has 4:20. We now have 10:17.
Oh,
right?
I love that. I haven't heard that
Right,
before,
so
but I like
10,
that.
yeah, I actually have a T-shirt with that on it. 10:17 is the new 4:20.
That means I have 20 minutes until 10:17 my time.
See how perfect is that, right? You finish the podcast, and
That will be
you go and
perfect.
have your morning coffee, and then 10:17 in the nighttime, right? So no more waiting up till 4:20.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I like
So
that.
right, so 10:17 at night, you can sit back, relax. The kids are gone to bed. It's parent time or adult time.
Excellent. And to your point, it's ours. The U.S. you say that
ours.
420s, 1017 is ours. I love that, Ian. That's great.
10:17 is ours. Yeah.
Fabulous.
What a great way to start your day with a nice
Perfect.
sativa
Yeah,
day.
And that is daytime. I am a sativa guy. A lot of
Right.
the work I do is with audio and stuff, and so it doesn't really impact my ability to do my work. It just makes my work more enjoyable, far more enjoyable. Yeah.
Far more enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that I wanted to touch on, my son hosted a podcast years and years ago, and one of the things that they brought into every episode was a series of what they called hot seat questions. So now they're not difficult. Trust me, they're not difficult. You don't need to think about them very much. But just want to throw these at you and get your response. So what's your favorite strain?
Right now, Donegal, but usually it's Jack Herer.
Yeah, Jack Herer is really nice, isn't it? I haven't tried the Donegal. I'll have to give that a try.
A lot of energy.
Okay.
A lot of energy.
Okay, excellent. Do you prefer joints or vaping?
Joints.
Okay.
I am the king of the joints.
Okay. Have you tried much vaping at all?
I have a G Pro vape pen, but the tip broke. So
okay.
Actually, I don't have a vape at the moment.
Gotcha.
Vaping in the wintertime, joints in the summer.
There's a good idea. See, I used to have a Volcano from Storrs and Bickle, and I actually killed two of them.
Oh my!
I'm the only person I know
we call it chronic.
exactly, who killed two volcanoes over the course of my life. So I continue to vape. So your preference is joints. What's your favorite munchie, Ian?
Hostess hickory sticks.
Oh, those are tasty, aren't they?
Yeah,
I can understand that one. If you're not into the cannabis, because I'm assuming like me that you don't mix your cannabis with any alcohol. So
I don't drink at all.
You don't drink at all. Well, then that's the answer to that
question. I
question.
haven't had any alcohol in my system in 13 years.
Wow. Oh, good for you. That keeps it clean. I just have a beer every once in a while. I'm not a big drinker either. Do you prefer cake or pie?
Pie.
Okay. And the last one, edibles or flower?
Flower.
Flower. Yeah, that's my preference too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Cannabis Podcast. Mr. Ian Power is who I've been speaking with, ladies and gentlemen. He was the first person to purchase, the first male to purchase legal cannabis in our country, and the one who initiated the concept of 1017 as the time that we should all
1017.
get together. I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah.
Excellent. Any final
Great
words
time of day.
for the people?
I would just say for everybody out there, come to Canada and enjoy our cannabis.
There's some good advice and a good
Right?
offer. Well, thank you very
Right.
much, Ian. You enjoy the rest of your
All
day,
right.
and I appreciate you for being
You
on
too
the
now.
podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Take care.
It was. Thank you. Thank you now.
Oh, that went very fast. We did it. I can't believe it. We have come to the end of episode 1 of the Cannabis Podcast. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride. I hope you have enjoyed the experience and you'll be back for more. There's so much more I'm going to try to squeeze in here, like strain reviews, keeping track of how many retail stores are open across the country, all of those kind of things, plus lots of neat and interesting facts about Canadian cannabis culture. Next week, I have David Wiley lined up. He's going to be our conversation next week. He is the founder and owner of OkanaganZ.com, a marijuana media company based here in the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia. Great conversation coming up next week. Plus, I think we'll do a strain review on Kinky Kush. All of that coming up next week, right here on the Cannabis Podcast.
From the Cannabis Infused Studio, high above the Okanagan Valley, this was the Cannabis Podcast.